Triangle BNI is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Oak City Tech will power your goals with proven technologies for increasing your traffic, leads, and sales. They help you with web design, SEO, social media, anything you want. Go to oakcitytech.com. Tell them what you need. I know they can help you. Tell Drago we said hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning, and welcome back to Triangle BNI. Each week, we bring you a small business success story from Triangle BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. And our little slice of heaven here is the Triangle in North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, almost 40 chapters get together and nearly 600 members. And the only thing we do is help each other grow their business. In our small business success story this week is Crystal Cannata with Right Hand Admin. Crystal, how are you today?
Hey, Mike, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Just a normal Monday for us, right?
Oh, yeah.
We're at week 8, I think now, and it's just hearing stories from people about how we're adjusting and what we're learning and which part of the house everybody's staking out with or without kids is kind of interesting. Just so everybody knows, Crystal owns Right Hand Admin. She is also a member of RD39. That group meets Friday mornings in Wake Forest at 8 a.m. at the Wake Forest Coffee Company. So when we do get back to meeting, we've been virtual now for, I think, about 7 weeks or so. Once BNI gets back to meeting in person on a Friday morning at 8 a.m., if you are interested in seeing her group, just head up to the Wake Forest Coffee Company, buy a cup of coffee and a donut or a Danish or something, and head on upstairs. All right, Krista, everybody's been working from home this long. What kind of things have changed in your world?
So I always work from home, so that's been pretty cool and consistent. But not having the babysitter come has been a little bit of a change. I've had several video meetings that I'm actually like feeding the baby. I just put it on mute and hope she doesn't need anything too drastic while I'm in the call. But so that's been a little bit different. But other than that, we've been kind of rocking and rolling the same way we usually do.
The right hand admin, here are the services that Crystal provides. You do virtual assistants, you do administration and operations, you do social media management, you do all kinds of things. The most impressive thing about Crystal, and we've known each other, what are we going on, 6 or 8 months, something like that? Probably
Yep.
when you joined the Wake Forest chapter.
Yep.
The most impressive thing here, people, is she just had a baby. So she's got 2 in the house now, running a business, has a husband, has a house, a couple of dogs, pets, all that good stuff, and is generating more traffic on social media than you've ever done, which is pretty impressive. So, how are you organizing all this?
First of all, I have a little bit of an obsession with organizing, so it's kind of what I do, right? But I just have a lot of help. I do have my mother-in-law comes to help with the kids, and my husband is just an awesome help, and he works from home, so that's pretty cool. And then I use a lot of like softwares, and I have a team that logs into those softwares. So I literally have like a brain dump. It's called brain dump on every aspect of my social media, my business, my personal life. And just as I think of things, I just pop it in there. And then my team is just maintaining it in the background. Like, oh, Crystal had this crazy idea. Let's run with
Mhm.
it. you know?
Yep. And I remember a quote from the other day when we are talking, we'll get to that. But when a potential client calls you, what kind of things are they looking for? What's the most consistent thing people are looking for from you?
Usually it's really more time. Everybody wants more time. They need more time to actually do what they're good at, which is the trade of their business. So they're coming to me and saying, listen, can you get back to all my customer service requests? Can you follow up on all those proposals I sent out? Can you, you know, purchase my inventory and send out my invoices? All those like little tedious things that most business owners just put to the end of their list and then they never get done. That's what they're coming to us for.
And people that are watching this, some are small business owners, some are just living at home and working in an office. But we all kind of mismanage time, don't we?
No, yeah.
What kind of tips do you have for people just at home how to manage time better if they don't need you for business purposes?
Yeah, the biggest thing that helped me is I call it time blocking. And
Mhm.
it's basically just ahead of time planning out how you're going to spend your time. So balance is a myth. You're never going to be perfectly balanced, and even if you're not talking about business, just talk about like being a wife and being a mother and being a neighbor and being a daughter, right? Like, so if you block out your time and you say, okay, from, like, for me, from 5:30 to 7:30 in the morning, like, that's my time, that's where I get to read and work out and do whatever, like, that's like mom time. I literally have it in my calendar as mom time. And then let's say from, like, 7:30 to 9:30 is family time, and then from 9:30 to 12:30 is work time, or whatever it is. And you just have to really structure your day and have the self-discipline to only do those tasks that are associated with mom time during mom time and work time during work time. And it's hard to do some days, but it's definitely helpful to at least visualize the day that way.
I was reading an article over the weekend about people working from home, which I think we're going to see more and more of that. These companies are finding out that some of their employees like working from home better. And the guy who wrote the article was talking about a lot of people that work from home, independent contractors who are used to working from home, are more efficient because they do block the time. And one of the things they do is when they block the time, they know basically I'm not checking emails or I'm not checking the phone, and that can really help you get in a good way and get productive, isn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure. Actually, they did some studies, and let's say like an 8-hour a day employee that's out at an office is on average working about 2 to 3 hours. So if you think of that, you kind of like have like the two sides of it, right? It's like, first of all, well, how can I get more hours out of them? But then the other part is, if they only need 2 or 3 hours to do their work, and then they can spend the rest of their time being mom and wife and having
Mm.
like that balance, like, why not? And I think companies are definitely seeing that now. And I've had a few of my clients seeing that, and like canceling their lease at their office because they're like, wow, my people are happier and working better from home. Like, but it's scary to give up control. And that's really what a lot of having people in an office is that control.
Yeah, and a lot of that goes back to what type of manager you are. And I've hired a number of people throughout my business life, and I've always talked to them. You'll know real quick if your manager's a good one. If we're in a meeting and Amnon's the boss and he says, "Hey, Mike, good job on this project." If I'm a good boss, I'm gonna say, "You know what? Thanks, but that was Crystal's idea. She floated it. She did all the work, and she got us going down that way. So congrats to her." You're gonna know I'm a good boss. If I say, "Hey, thanks, our team worked real hard," you should be sitting over there fuming, which would be the right thing to do for me not giving you credit. So these business owners who have their employees at home, when you hire somebody, you kind of got to trust them a little bit, don't you?
Yeah. There's an interesting like visual that I saw, and it actually has to do with parenting. And it shows like a kid sitting at a table, and I don't know, they're doing something like messy, like painting or glue or something. And the parent is standing and looking at them and saying, I trust you. And then next to it is another parent who this kid's doing the same thing, but the parent is like turned around sweeping, and it says, I trust you. And it's like that's just such a powerful visual, right? Because it's like, do you really trust the person if you have to stand over them and watch them the whole time? Or can you actually turn your back and trust them and allow them to make mistakes, and let them grow and you grow because of it? And it's a scary thing, but I think that businesses who are choosing to do that and trust the people will see that their employees are capable of a lot more.
Yeah, because if I hire you at $40,000 a year, I'm hiring you for the productivity. I'm not hiring you for 40 hours a week. You're supposed to grow this department or come up with this idea or manage this group of people, whatever it is. If I'm paying you that money to do that and you're meeting or exceeding those expectations, I think that's going to change the mindset of a lot of bosses because of this.
And I can tell you, I see it with my team. It's funny, and I actually just had this conversation with my team a couple hours ago, right? Like, when I started the right hand admin, it really, if I just wanted to, let's say, support my family, I could just take on a couple of clients and then just do what I had to do, right? But I just see such a vision with this where I can be that good boss, hopefully, and give people that freedom to work from home and earn an income for their home, but also still have like that time, right? And so we just talked to, like, I have to almost like retrain them out of old patterning that they learned from old bosses. Like, if I'm not always on top of everything and working all the time, like then I'm a bad employee. And it's not true. I would much rather them say to me, "Hey, Crystal, my son has a baseball game today. I know this is usually due at 3. Do you mind if I do it at 5?" Sure, like, why not? I'd rather you be happy and go see your son and then do the work later. As long as it's getting done and nothing's, there's no harm from it, why not? There's no reason to stress people out like that.
Yeah, but the number one thing was you two communicated that.
Right, yeah. And that's one thing that my team knows. Like, just always let me know. Like, in
Yep.
my world, saying, "Hey, I have too much on my plate," is not a bad thing. It's not like going to get you fired. It's just going to mean, okay, it's time to expand the team so that we can all have that little piece of balance that we're looking for.
And when it comes to working from home, I'm a morning guy, so I get up early and I go walking before the sun's up. And I'm with you. That 5:30 to 7:30 window is just huge for me. I get a lot done. So does it matter if I do that before 11 or if I do it from 5:30 to 7:30 and then I cut out at 3 o'clock?
No,
Right.
no, no. Well, the rules are arbitrary, right? Like, it depends what game you're playing.
Well, but we have those, and you brought it up just a minute ago. We have those rules. Well, the workday is 9 to 5. No, and I think a lot of things are going to change once we get back to whatever the new normal is going to be. But I think we're going to bust some of those myths and realize you just get your work done.
I mean, I know for myself because I have worked in office setting before, and I think my workday started like, let's say, 8:30, and then it was like till 5 or 5:30, like that. And like for me, if I'm already up in the morning, like I just want to like get my stuff done.
Yep.
By 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, honestly, like it's like my mind doesn't even care about work anymore. I want to know about everything else that's going on except for work. And I think that the thought process is, but if the person is trapped in the office and they're in front of their computer, like they will do something. And it's like, no, they won't. What they'll do is they'll fidget, they'll play on their phone, they'll take 3 hours to do something that can be done in a half an hour. And that's the interesting thing I think with my business is, like, we work hourly, right? So like whatever time we work is what we clock in for, and that's it. And so you would think, like, oh, wouldn't they want to just stay clocked in because then it would benefit them? And it's like, no, we want to clock in, get it done, because then we can go make lunch or play outside or do something else. And so it's again back to that trust,
Yeah.
like, yeah, just
I I think it's yeah, I think it's going to be real interesting coming out of COVID-19 on the things that change. And speaking of changing, though, your business, when you first started, you kind of morphed into different services you provide because people started talking about them or they came up in conversation, right?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, recently just started. I always said I don't want to be a call center. I don't want to be a call center. But the truth is, we work with a lot of trades companies.
Yep.
These are guys are doing electrical work, plumbing work, and stuff like that. And the truth is, if I have a pipe burst in my house and I call a plumber and that plumber doesn't answer the phone, I'm going to call the next plumber. So it took a little while of, me trying to figure it out logistically. But now, we have a service where we answer incoming calls because that could mean the success of our clients. So it's just always changing in that way.
And it's smart for the tradespeople to do that because if you're on the roof, you're underneath a house, you can't stop, or you probably shouldn't stop every time and answer your phone. So I'd love to see numbers of if there's projected numbers or amount of revenue that companies like that lose because they're not able to answer the phone. And paying you to answer that phone probably covers itself with one or two jobs, right?
Yeah, and it's funny because a lot of our clients will see an increase in cash flow when we start, and it's not
Mhm.
because we're going out and selling, it's just because the people who are emailing in and whatever, like we're actually getting back to them. And so that actually does, especially in this market where we are in North Carolina, for whatever reason, like a lot of companies aren't getting back to their customers. And so literally just the change of picking up the phone or responding to an email within 24 hours will land you all of this business that's just, it's like free money sitting in your inbox.
Oh,
But
yeah.
just sits there. It's going to get archived, hopefully, because hopefully you're not letting yourself get 10,000 emails, right?
Well,
But
yeah. And if you think about it, if I want to choose between me cold calling somebody to maybe use our services or pick up a phone of somebody that took the time to find my number to call me and ask me, I want to answer those phone calls first.
right. Yeah. And you'll be surprised. Like a lot of your customers want to hear from you too. Actually, like one of our clients was just like, listen, I haven't done anything. I have all these people sitting in my bank of, warm leads basically. And it's just, we reach out to them and they're like, yeah, I'm happy to hear from you. And I now I want to do more business with you.
Oh yeah. It's communication is usually going to make you as much money as cold calling will, just because people want to know that you acknowledge their phone call and got back with them. I'm amazed at the number of the companies that you hear from a client who could have been theirs, went with somebody else because they say just what you said. Well, these people answered the phone or they got back with
Hmm.
amazing. And for you to help solopreneurs like that who aren't able to do that, I mean, that's a gold mine for them. So I figure that the smart ones, it took them about a day to figure that out. When you said, "Oh, these four people called and we have two appointments booked for you the next day." Hopefully they just thought, "Okay, you're on full time now."
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So the right hand admin, how many people you mentioned your team meeting this morning? How many people you got on your team?
We have four.
Right. Can we make the stereotypical assumption that they're all female and always will be female?
I won't say they always will be. I'm open to having a man on the team, but I do think that this work is best usually for like stay-at-home moms. And it's funny
Oh,
because I didn't really think of it, but like we plan to homeschool, and it just so happens like one of our top team members also is a homeschool mom. So it's just like like there are women out there who gave up their career or what like their traditional career was so that they could homeschool their kids or stay at home with their kids, but they still want to have like that little piece of like using their mind for something other than like what's for lunch. And so this is usually a really good fit for them.
you mean they actually want to talk to adults at some point in time during the day?
Yeah, and you know what, they like to do spreadsheets and numbers and
Oh, good for you.
maybe.
Those are your kind of people, aren't they?
Oh,
All right. So even more impressive now, the fact that small business owner, female small business owner, two kids, one really new, and you homeschool them. Do I dare ask what you can't do or haven't tried yet?
oh my gosh. It's just I just laugh because you're saying, one is so new, and I'm just remembering like I was literally like going into labor on the way to the hospital, like texting my team, like,
Yeah.
make sure this gets done, make sure this. And they actually had to yell at me and they're like, you need to stop, I'm going to call your husband and tell him that you're still working. And it's just, they say if you do what you love, then you never work a day in your life. And I don't think that's true. I think it is definitely hard work, but the passion around it, like where you,
Yeah.
you actually don't want to be away from it.
Yep. I like your dry erase board behind you. Can you tell us real quick what the differences are in some of the colors?
It's really just visual. To be honest with you, most of the things on here are just like affirmations. Like I have little reminders of, what do I
Okay.
have on here? Someone else's opinion of me is none of my business. I will not make myself small to make someone else comfortable. What are the habits of a successful blank? you know,
Yeah.
just little reminders.
But it matters. And I'm not one of those people on LinkedIn because you see people on LinkedIn, even on Facebook too, sometimes they're known for posting those quotes. And that's fine. I'm not one of those guys. I don't need those to get going. I need a task or
Yeah.
a challenge. But we all have that one or two couple of words or something we always go back to. So I'm a fan of those because we know what we can look at and read and go, yeah, I really didn't hoof it this morning. I need to get better at it.
Yeah. And I'm big on that's one thing that's actually really helped me in recent years is just like those little affirmations, those little things that you can say to yourself, because you're talking to yourself whether you think so or not. So I noticed it actually with my parenting, where I'd be like, oh my God, everybody needs something from me. And I would literally just be standing there like, I don't have the patience for this. I don't have the patience for this. And then I'll like take a deep breath and I'll be like, I have the patience for this. And it just completely, you're just like, okay, yeah, I have the patience for this. I'm going to do this. And it just, for me, like those little things really make a difference.
And for me, as I've gotten older, I've learned better. For example, when my wife Becky, when I go to the store or go somewhere looking, it could be in the attic looking for something, and I'll have to call her, ask her a question. She'll say, "No, it's right by the, fill in the blank." And it took me a few years of being married to understand what I needed to tell her, which is I now do, is say, "Let me tell you what I'm seeing." And
Mm,
once she sees where I'm looking at, then she goes, "Oh no, not that red square box. It's the blue round one right there. Should be right underneath it." And I pull up the red box and boom, there's the blue box. And so I've learned to tell people how I see things or hear things, and then they can tell it back to me. Then I'm like, oh, I got it perfectly. I love the phrase just start. I don't need 7 pages on why and how or anything like that. But just for me, I'll have it scribbled at certain places. Again, like you
mhm.
have an idea. Hey, let's just start.
Yeah, that was one of the ones I said to my team this morning, because they were all, because I kind of changed my office setup, so now you can see my board a little bit more. And it says, just make a decision. I'm like, I don't even remember what that was about, but like for some reason I needed to remind myself, like, just make the decision. Stop sitting in it. Just go and make a decision. So yeah,
And that
sometimes.
gives people some power because you want with your employees to be empowered to make that decision, whether they can get in touch with you or not.
Mhm. Yep.
All right, so move to your right just a little bit. I see a road racing number 37 something. Who wore that and how fast did they run?
No, that was me, and that was a rugged maniac. So it took me a it was one of those like obstacle courses. So you got to run through the mud and climb up all kinds of things. And I think it was like 3.5 miles. It took like 2 hours to complete. But if you see the pictures of me, like after I completed that, I felt like the strongest person in the world. I was like, you know, and
What
I
made
failed at most of the obstacles. I mean, if there was a place for you to like fall in the mud and like make a fool of yourself, I was doing it. But I tried every single one.
what made you want to do that? And will you do another one?
Yeah, I will definitely do another one. It's just that, like, if you ever listen to like Spartan Up podcasts, it's just like do something different that your brain is not used to. And for me, like training for that was just something that was only for me. I determined like how good I did at it, and it was just such an accomplishment to do something totally different than what I'm used to.
It was a lot of fun though, wasn't it? With the accomplishment of finishing that, right?
Oh yeah, and then you finish, and they got like a mechanical bull and beer and all kinds of crazy, dance parties and stuff at the end. So my husband, he went, but he just like he waited with the beer. you know.
I like that. So let's talk about your husband, Andrew. You guys are relatively young to the married world, but
Mhm.
I always ask people on the show, how did you meet your spouse? And do you both tell the story the same way?
Yeah, we both do. We're both honest about it. We met on a free dating site.
More
so we
people are
always
doing that. Yeah.
we joke because like I met him on a free dating site, like not even a paid one. Like it was the free one that you just go on because you got nothing better to do, I guess. And I met two of my closest friends on Facebook actually. So he's like, you do everything online, like business online, you meet people online. What's the matter with you? But yeah, we met online, and it turned out that he actually lived only half a mile from me. And we were going to the same places, and we knew some of the same people, but we just never crossed paths in that way.
Now, for people listening, if you've noted a small accent from Crystal, it's not from the Greater Triangle area. It's actually from New Jersey, correct?
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. So once you two met, what was the connection first time you guys started talking online?
I don't even know. I just remember being like, I just joined this app just to like kill time. Like I don't even want. talk to somebody. And then he was like, "Do you wanna?" Well, it's funny because you can like favorite somebody, and I didn't realize that if you favorite somebody to go look back at it later, they could see that you did that. So he reached out. He's like, "Oh, you want to talk on the phone?" And I was like, "Okay." And at that time, I was like, halfway through Married at First Sight with my bag of Doritos. Like that was my single life. And I was like, "All right, I'll talk to this guy." And then we wound up talking for like hours. And so we were like, "Okay." And then we kind of like wound up, hanging out a few times. And we both had dogs, so we'd take the dogs on walks and stuff, and it just kind of went from there.
Where was the first date?
A coffee shop. He, we're both brutally honest, but he's like, I'm dating. Like, if I took every girl out on a fancy dinner,
Mhm.
he's, so I got like $1.50 coffee, and just to make sure there was something there, and then we went for drinks afterwards.
Well, and sometimes a coffee place is good because you're not tied to an hour and a half meal.
Yeah, and I remember even our first date, I was like, I remember talking to the people at work because I like even when I lived in New Jersey and New York, I like to wear my cowboy boots and my ripped jeans and stuff. And they're like, you shouldn't wear that on your first date. Like people around here don't really dress like that. I was like, whatever. This guy's gonna like me for who I am, or he's not gonna like me at all. And we went to the coffee shop and we wound up talking so long there that the coffee shop actually like started to turn into this like hookah bar, and they put music on and there was like all these teens coming and stuff, and we were just like, okay, maybe we should go somewhere else.
And did it turn out that because you have, if I get it right on my research on you, you've got one brother, one sister?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister.
No, I missed two of them. Okay. All right. Did anybody know him or anybody in his family?
No. Nope.
Okay. Did you guys go to the same high school?
No, I'm from Jersey and he grew up in New York,
Okay.
and so we
Well,
just happened to I had happened to be living on Staten Island at that point, and so
okay. And down here to us, it's the same thing. So New York, New Jersey, but it's one road, one state,
yeah.
basically. We look at it that way. So what got you two down in Wake Forest?
It was just such an odd thing. Our first daughter wasn't exactly planned, and so we just started after she was born. We were like, you know what? Let's just buy a house, and we started looking in New Jersey, and we just
Ooh.
nothing was clicking. And then my husband, his industry wasn't doing super great, and I think he had lost his job at that point, and I was working from home already, and my job was okay with me taking my thing. So we actually just literally did a Google search, and we're like, what are the best places to live? Because we're just not happy here. And Raleigh came up. And so then he was like, "Oh, I have a friend who moved down there, 10 years ago. Let's go visit him." And we came down, we visited for like 3 days, and we left signing a lease for an apartment in Wake Forest. And then we moved down there, and less than a year later, we wound up buying our house over in Roseville.
And neither one of you had a job down here yet, right?
I was working from home for a business in New York, the same job that I had been working. And no, he didn't have a job when we initially moved down, and he wound up finding another job that he works from home anyway for, so it worked out.
If anybody is working for the Convention and Visitors Bureau that watches this show, I think you're about the sixth person I've had on the show that said, we just Googled great places to live and Raleigh or Cary showed up. So I'm not surprised at that, having lived here a long time.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because it literally was like throwing a pin on a map. We had looked at Florida, Texas. We had looked at a couple of other places. We got pretty serious about looking at the Poconos, but wanted a little bit warmer weather, and we're really happy to be here. Sometimes we think about maybe going closer to the beach, but
Mhm. That well, it's worthwhile too. Plus, I-95, you get home in a few hours, see family, and they can come down and visit. Um, so everybody's happy. Was it what the family say when you guys told them, "Hey, we're moving to a place we don't know anybody, and only one of us has a job"?
well, and the hardest part, honestly, like I don't even think they cared about that. It was just my daughter is the only grandchild on both
Yes.
sides,
Yeah.
and she had just turned a year. We actually did her 1 year birthday party like a month early so that we could move. And it was hard, because they wanted to be with her and everything. But now that we're here and we're settled, my mother-in-law wound up moving down, um, and one of our cousins wound up moving down. But other than that, I think everybody's just happy for us because they see how happy we are here. And I think now all of them are like, well, when can I get down there? When can I move?
I've told my grandson Oliver lives in Charlotte, and I've told his dad very bluntly that they will not be moving anytime soon anywhere. They're staying right where they are in Charlotte. So I understand from a grandparent's point of view that you know what, that's kind of important because it is a lot of fun. But you've
Well, FaceTime has been really a lifesaver. Like my daughter has such a connection with my mom and like all her grandparents that aren't here just from being on FaceTime. They send Christmas presents and we prop them up on the iPad in the corner and they open presents with her or whatever. And then when they come to visit or we go up there, it's like she already has that connection with them. It's
yep.
not like a stranger. So
And I think video in this generation and with your daughters will be just like Oliver growing up. That's all they'll ever know. They won't know paper and a pen. Usually they'll just know I have this thing and I can write on it. I can do whatever I want to on it. But back in the day when we had to write letters to our grandparents or call them once every 4 months or whenever we talked to them, and I would have this conversation with my mom all the time. It's like, I don't remember any presents my grandparents bought me. I just remember the time and the stories.
mm, yeah.
And I think your daughters will have that same because video will allow them connection. Oh, grandma, remember the time we were talking about X, or I showed you, remember when I walked around my room with the iPad and I showed you the new whatever I bought or anything like that. I think they'll have those connections.
And she has like she's only 3.5, but she has an iPad with the kids messenger on it. And so she sometimes if she sees me working and like typing, she'll pull up her messenger and she'll like type and she's like, I'm working, I'm sending an email to grandma or whatever. And they send her messages and voice messages back and she can't read yet, but she'll play back like the voice messages and stuff. And so it's just really cool. Like it's definitely different. And I know there's so much controversy over, kids with screen time and stuff like that. And I think it's important for them to have a little bit of a balance because like you said, that's the world that they're in. You know, that's just and they just like pick up on it so quick. Like I'll
They do.
tell my daughter, she'll be like, can you do this? And I'm like, how did you even get to this screen? Like, I don't know.
I used to have those conversations with my mom, and she truly didn't know how she would delete a folder, and then 3 days later it would show back up. But that's a whole other story. We are here with Crystal Cannata, owner of the Right Hand Admin. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Oak City Tech's going to help you increase traffic, leads, and sales. I know they can. They've helped me. Drago did my website. He does social media for us. He's the title sponsor of the show. I know they can help you. Go to oakcitytech.com and tell them what you need, and I know they can help you. All right, Crystal. So you recently have added social media management to your services, haven't you?
Yes, sir. Which is another thing that I was like, not gonna be a social media company.
But it shows you're listening to the customer.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually that came from a great partnership too. And if I'm totally transparent and we talk about giving, I don't know if we talk about it on air or off, but giving your team credit
Mhm.
for what's going on. We I have a lot of big ideas, and I think that I'm able to help my clients figure out what their messaging is and what they want their customers to feel from them. And then I have an awesome team that just puts together like beautiful graphics and copy and stuff that just the important part whenever you're looking to outsource your social media in any capacity is that the person on the other end who's actually pumping out your stuff is speaking in your voice because that's what your customers connected with or will connect with when they want to do business with you. So you have to stay in that voice, in that tone.
Yeah, my youngest son helps me on some social media stuff. He lives down in Florida, and we started something, I guess about 4 months ago on Twitter, which I'm still with. And he was posting something, and somebody responded to it, and he responded back. He said, "I appreciate you." And I saw that, and I called him up and said, "Cameron, you can't say that anymore." He's like, "Why?" And I said, "Because I've never said that."
Yeah.
So, but you do know when you get a bogus or a generic response from somebody, we know that immediately, don't
Oh yeah. Actually, it's pretty funny. I think I'm gonna do a video on it this week because there's an influencer, I guess you would call, that I follow, and she's got a really big following. And her team had put out a piece of content that wasn't really in line with her messaging, and
we?
it was like a little bit offensive. And so a couple days later, like she took it down and she made an apology. And she's like, my team put it up or whatever. And I could not believe, like, thousands of comments of people like, I follow you to follow you. And I can't believe that you're having somebody else. And the truth is, pretty much any successful business owner or person with an actual following is not doing all of their social media. Like, there's no way that you're running a business and motivating people and doing all these things and also like on Facebook all the time. But I do think it's important to have that transparency of like, listen, and I'll tell anybody who asks, the ideas come from my head and I review it before it goes out. But the actual like piece of copy and everything that you see that goes out, I'm not sitting there doing it myself. And so it's just interesting because it's like, what is the right way there? Because you want people to feel like they can follow you and that you would respond, but you also, as your audience grows and your customer base grows and your business gets busier because you have this social following, you have to delegate a little bit.
And that's another thing for business owners in the 2010s and 2020s and on are going to have to add to their arsenal of promotion, and part of their day is that,
Hmm.
because that's how most people are with newspapers. We know those are dying. Radio advertising is probably down a little bit, still decent, but everybody knows. And again, going back to your kids and my grandson, that's what they're going to know, is they're going to get their stuff from, they call it a phone, call it whatever you want, but that's where they're going to get their information from.
Hmm. Yeah.
I find it funny that most of the kids walking around, they have a phone, but that's the one thing they use it the least amount for.
Yes. Yeah.
Because we'll go to Charlotte to visit Oliver, and we'll be sitting around talking, and somebody will ask questions like, "What was that?" or "What happened that date?" And Travis, my son, will just instantly reach for his phone, not his computer, and Google something or search it. He goes, "Oh, here it is, right here." It didn't even think twice about reaching for his phone. So I think that's where things are headed, and businesses, whatever age you are, whether you're your age or my age, we've got to acknowledge that that's where we're going. And I'm sure some of your
And that's
clients are
the
going to
thing.
come kicking and screaming into that just like I am.
Right. And like, especially if you are a business that provides some sort of like knowledge based service, right? Where it's like people will come to you as an expert on something or for some kind of information. Like, the truth is, they could get that information pretty much anywhere. Like, you can take your phone right now, like you're saying, Google anything you want to know, and you can know that information within the next 5 minutes, right? Like, you
Oh
don't have
yeah.
to go for, years of schooling and research and stuff like that. It's literally in front of your face. And so, why do people come to you when you are that type of business owner? And it's because of your voice and your messaging, and because they just like you. And so people say like personal brand, like it's a separate thing, but like everybody is their personal brand. Even if your brand, you don't think it's your personal brand, it is, you know? And that person that you have as your sales rep or whatever is the face of your company, like, it's their personal brand too. And it's all kind of like reflecting as one because people have the information whenever they need it. It's that connection that really is what they're looking for.
Your brand is how you deal with people. I'm firmly convinced, of all the seminars and webinars I've done, and people are saying you need to say this and do that. I've come to the conclusion that it's how you treat people and how you deal with them. That's what your brand is. So I don't know that you have to spend $50,000 on branding. I think maybe if you're Nike and stuff like that, you kind of do, just because people don't understand the commercial for Nike where they say just do it. That's the branding part of it. When they say, hey, Nike's Air Jordans on sale at Dick's Sporting Goods this weekend, that's advertising and
Right.
marketing. But branding is what you do and how you do it. It's the feel of it, that they know, I don't care when I call Crystal, she gets back with me.
Right. And that's kind of like what we help with. Like, we are not an advertising, uh, you know, company. Like, we're not going to help you make like a professional video and a professional, sales message and ad to put out. Like, what we help people with is that branding. Like, who is the person that you're speaking to, right? Because you're trying to speak to somebody, and what does that person need help with, and how can we make you the expert in their eyes, whether they're buying from you or not, you know? Because the more people that look at you as the expert for something, and you do that through your social media and through responding to your emails and your text messages and all of that, the more you surround yourself with that type of energy, then the more people will be attracted to you when they actually do need something.
Because there's 1,000 business coaches, there's 1,000 virtual assistants, there's 10,000 insurance people and realtors and financial advisors. But what separates you, because they could call any of us. We
Hmm.
may give them different levels of service, but they can call any of us. But you're right. Back to your point. Why are they calling you?
Yep.
So, all right. So I'm gonna brag on you some more. I'm gonna need to go on your payroll starting today about 1 o'clock as your PR person. So I'm going to brag on you just a little bit. Some of the facts may be correct, some may not be. So let's just see where it goes. You are an author of the Homeschool Planner.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I think it's still for sale on Amazon. That was
It
one of those
is.
things that's like, just because you can do something, you shouldn't, doesn't mean that you should do it. And I'm a super organized person, so I started making homeschool plan sheets, and then it turned into a planner and a book, and that's been pretty interesting.
When did you do? I love doing research because, like I told you before we came on, I Google and I find out, yeah, I find out a lot. Some things I found out from a couple of guests, like, I don't think I want to bring those up. You, spotless, not a surprise. When did you write that?
That had to be about 2 years ago, probably
Okay.
when we decided that we were gonna homeschool, and then I started making all those things, and I was like, "If this is helping me, maybe it'll help somebody else," and so I posted it up, and I found out that documenting our homeschool journey and creating homeschool resources is not really a passion of mine, but yeah, it still sits up there on Amazon.
Hey, if you get we've had a couple people on the show that have written stuff, either songs or been in a small movie, something like that, and they get residual checks that they call, because I'll ask them, they'll go, it's mailbox money, which means it's something. It's not. It probably doesn't have a comma on it, but yeah, they call it mailbox money. So, are people still buying that? Do you know?
I don't even know. I think maybe I sold a couple last year because I remember getting the statement, but yeah, I don't even keep up with I should check on that.
You might want to, or maybe you want to update it, homeschooling two kids, or something like that, or homeschooling through the pandemic, or when the next pandemic hits. See, I'm just writing all this stuff
Yeah,
for you, Chris. I'm telling you what.
let
I
me pull
want,
up my board real quick. I'm
yeah,
gonna
and with me being a Tennessee grad, I want an orange pen and just residuals for Mike, and we'll just start putting numbers underneath that. Okay, so you got that. You did some pre-K events I found on Eventbrite.
yeah. So part of my journey that brought me here, when we first moved here, I was like, okay, I wanna. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, I guess. So I was like, what can I do that would let me be with my kids and also make some money? And so I was like, okay, I can teach preschool classes. And so yeah, that's what we were doing. Um, so I would do like a story and a craft, and we would go. I think we were doing them at a coffee shop and a gym actually, and people would come with their preschool aged kids, and
Mhm.
that's what we would do.
I know, like most of us, you have that list
What's
of
that?
things you want to do, and in time, they may or may not show themselves. You need the right time. You do have one. I'm not going to ask you what's on it, but you got one of those lists, right?
Hmm.
Do they involve maybe when the kids get older, or a couple of pipe dreams, or just one, maybe once I grow right hand admin to this level, and then I can go do this?
I'm actually working on it on the side.
All right.
So, and that's where my Reach for More club comes,
Yes.
just being able to inspire people and grow an online based business so that as they grow, as the kids grow, right hand admin, I can entrust to these other very high quality, highly qualified admins, and I can have my creative outlet and my personal just passion to help people grow in that sense. So that's one of those things that just, it's been on the list, it's been on the list, and I've been tiptoeing around like, how could I do it? And I've tried through so many different avenues, and now I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. It's just gonna go, and it's either gonna go or it's gonna fail, but we're gonna try it.
And that is called Reach for More Club. It's got its own website, right?
We're working on the website, yeah.
Okay. If you want to follow Crystal on Facebook, please do, because this originally started out as a book club, didn't it?
Yeah. So what happened is I read a lot of personal growth books and business growth books. And every time that I'm sitting there and I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my God, if people could just read this, like it would change their life, you know? And they would have a board full of affirmations and things that would just drive them forward. But a lot of people don't read, either because they were turned off to it at some point or just because they don't have the time. And so I said, let me start a book club for people who don't read. And we go 3 times a week. We just talk about different chapters from the books and what are the key lessons. I'm like, no fluff. Like, just get to the point. What's the key lessons and what do I have to do to have this implemented in my life? So we do like a 10-minute. What was the chapter about? What's the key lessons? And what's like 2 to 3 assignments that will help you actually implement it? And what was happening is when people would actually watch the episodes, they were having they were finding a lot of value from it and they were loving it. But like that sell of like a book club for people who don't read, people were like, I think Mike Davis from our BNI group was like, I picture, old ladies with hats on, like sipping tea or something. And I'm like, okay, this is not the vibe I want, right? Come back to my messaging and my branding. So we still follow along books. We still take lessons from books. Um, we still talk about all kinds of personal growth, but it's just Reach for More Club now. We took out the book part so we could stop focusing on branding it and teaching people what a book club for people who don't read is and actually have them learning how to grow.
Now, how often do you get together? And it's obviously through Zoom or online right now, correct?
Yeah, it's a Facebook group, so Reach for More Club. And 3 times a week, I go on there and I go live and we talk about whatever it is. And those episodes wind up on YouTube and the podcast at some point, but the live stuff is in the group. And we just started something, which I'm sure we'll have you on hopefully in June, but we just started monthly member because the whole premise is like, I'm not an expert, I'm not a guru, I'm on the personal growth journey, right? So I'm learning these things and sometimes even struggling with them to the point that I have to rewatch my own episodes. And so I want to hear from other people because other people in the group have input that maybe could help me and maybe help other people. Everybody has like their own little stories that changed their life. And so we want to start hearing those. So I'm really excited about that to just hear what life changing tips other people have.
And that goes back to the branding part of it. What they know from you is I just tune into Crystal each week. I know I'm going to learn something or get something of value. So that's the branding part of that, that they know that, hey, if I want to learn something, this is who I call or follow.
Yeah.
And are you one of those types that can read two books at once?
I can. I think it's just because I don't read anything with a storyline. It's all just like knowledge, knowledge, So I'll like start one, and I'll be like, I need a little bit more of this motivation, so I'll switch over to another one.
People who can read two books at once and still focus on both of those. I don't know how you don't get the main character switched out and wait, how is Pride and Prejudice? Wait, what are they doing with cars in that book? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what is the tattoo on your right wrist?
It says the body achieves what the mind believes. And I actually had this designed. It's got a little barbell. So this is back when I was working at the gym, and it was more of a fitness motivation. But these days, it's definitely more of a mental motivation.
What made you get that?
Just that it's just something I really believe in. The body achieves what the mind believes. Same thing like I said before, right? I don't have the patience for this. I don't have the patience for this. Yes, you do have the patience for it, and all of a sudden your body has the patience for it. I went through it in the rugged maniac, like, oh my God, this is too hard. I'm not strong enough. And then as soon as you tell yourself, like, I'm strong enough, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna get through it, like your body just does it. Somehow it just happens.
I love watching little kids, probably well, actually, both of your kids would fall into this category. When you see that light bulb moment where they figure out, even if they grab something for the first time with their hand, they're like, oh, I can hold on to that. And you're right, the world opens up, doesn't it?
Yeah, those aha moments.
When your oldest daughter probably picked out something she wanted to wear for the first time and it matched, or she dressed herself or poured her first bowl of cereal, man, the whole world opens up. So, and it does for adults too. So I'm glad you brought that up because if you're not still learning or wanting to learn, you need to reflect on that for a minute.
Yeah, and a lot of people, they hold it as a bad thing, right? If somebody like changes their mind, let's say, or changes, like you hear it all the time, like you're not who you were. Like you have no obligation to be who you were even 10 minutes ago. If you now learn something that can make you a better person, like I'm not going to sit and justify why I wasn't that person 10 minutes ago. I'm just going to start rolling with this new, thing that I learned. And no.
On our podcast last week, we were talking about that very thing, and it's not waffling. It's a decision based on new information.
Right.
So if all of a sudden you knew that there was no gasoline for your car, how are you going to get across town now? It's new information.
Right.
So I'm with you. You can change your mind. There's difference between changing your mind based on new information, just waffling because you don't want to be pinned down to something. But I'm with you. You should be changing your mind and growing and learning. Uh, that's healthy. All
Mhm.
right, so let's go to Old Bridge High School.
Yeah.
Did all your siblings go there?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you? Where did your folks grow up?
I don't even know. North Jersey, I think.
Okay, near where you went to school.
Yeah, probably about half an hour,
Okay,
20 minutes.
because Jersey's like this big, maybe
Yeah.
kind of. Okay, all right.
I got to figure out the Parkway exit.
I go back to that Joe Piscopo episode on Saturday Night Live. He goes, "Oh, you're from Jersey. I'm from Jersey. What exit?"
It is though. It
Classic,
is. Yep.
classic. Do you guys refer to that as well up there?
Oh yeah, that's how you know. Like exit 123.
Oh, too
you know.
funny. Too funny. All right. So I always want to make sure that the people on my show move up in the ranking of famous alums from their high school or college. So I'm hoping today, Crystal, that this helps you get listed on the famous alums of Old Bridge High School.
Okay.
I think it's the right high school. It was the only Old Bridge High School in New Jersey that came up. So there's a guy named, I think he graduated a little bit before you, named Adam Chazen or Chasen. He was a special effects director on Game of Thrones. He actually won an Emmy.
Wow.
No, doesn't ring a bell.
No.
Okay. How big was the high school?
It was big. I think our graduation was like 8 hours or something
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, it's all those long names with all those vowels that
Yeah.
takes forever, right?
I made
There's
it
a,
to Bishop, so I was like right at the beginning, man.
oh yeah, you could have
The whole
left,
thing.
or your family did. You just didn't know it, and they came back, right? There's a punk rock band called the Ergs,
No.
ERGS, three brothers. I think they're about 2 years ahead of you.
No.
All right. And there's a gambler, one of the big poker guys who wins quite a bit on there. But hopefully so people watch this and it'll move you right up there. So I like that on Pinterest, your Mama Cannata 428. Okay. You had to be sitting around with a drink in your hand, right? One day. Hey, wouldn't this sound cool?
And on Game Center on the phone. That's how it came up.
Oh, that's funny. I like that. You're not big on Twitter, right?
No.
Okay. Last post I saw was something about smart art images from 2017. So I thought, it's probably not big on that.
No. I don't get it. I just don't. Sometimes I pump stuff out there automated, but I'm like, I don't understand. I have like 3 followers.
Yeah, and I'm yeah, and I'm learning on Instagram to post the image of our podcast and maybe a quick, 8 or 9 word phrase or sentence just to do that. So I'm trying to learn where that fits because LinkedIn is where you and I hang out because it's all business. And
Hmm.
then Facebook, you get the business page, you kind of get interaction, trying to figure out where your ideal clients might be. And then there's, I think, interest or Instagram, and then Pinterest, and then Twitter's like the water cooler
Yeah.
of social media, but it's a pain in the ass because people are mean
Yeah.
on
Well, I
Twitter.
think that's the culture on Twitter
Yeah,
is like sarcasm.
yeah. And I don't go on there much because I'm not perfect enough to be on Twitter, but it's no surprise here that I'm not perfect enough to be on Twitter. So, did you? I Googled something. Did you used to sell Norwex?
I did.
Nice. When was that?
Like, if I listed for you all the direct sales and businesses I had, like, we would need a whole nother show. It's, like, ridiculous, but
Oh, give me a couple more.
oh my gosh, just from the time I've been in North Carolina, which is, like, 3 years, I did the smart art classes, preschool classes. Then I started teaching, like, wine and design type classes. I did health coaching. I was doing health webinars and stuff like that. I've sold Avon, Mary Kay, Norwex, like all kinds of. It was like, and it's just so funny because then right hand admin came from people were like, "You want to have a business and like you're so good at this. Why don't you like make this a business?" And I had never thought of that before. Never. I was like, "Oh, let me try," and then that's how this came. But yes, Norwex. I still love Norwex to this day. Actually, I had to stop doing that so that I can focus more on my business, but I still use their products and everything.
Oh, it's good stuff. Where does this entrepreneurial spirit come from?
I don't know. To be honest, I feel like I call myself like a silent rebel. Like I question everything. Like why do we need to do like why would you do things this way? How come you have to do it this way? And so I've always questioned like is that the only way to live is like to put your kids in school and get a 9 to 5 job? And when I couldn't find like a real valid answer, like, what is does do I have to do this? Then my mind started going of like, okay, well, what are the other alternatives? And it's interesting because they all look like failures, and that used to bother me. I'd be like, oh my God, what people might think that last week I was selling Avon and now this week I'm teaching preschool class and then this week I'm doing, or whatever, how many months. But I don't think that I would be where I am today if I didn't do all of those things, you know?
Yep. Trinity and I tell my coaching partner, Trinity French, she and I tell people we work with that there's such thing as career evolution. Again, goes back to my point earlier, new information. Because you try one thing and you go, oh, you know what? This would be a logical add-on, or oh, it could lead to that. But again, it's new information, a career evolutionist, and that's fine to know that because you're right. Even today, but even before then, people go like, geez, Crystal, why have you had 5 jobs already? You're only 30 or however old you are. Why do you have that? But then once you hear the story, it's like, oh, that makes sense because they've all been, as long as they're all progressions, right?
Right.
That's
And
what you
I
want.
think back to the reason that I originally started, let's say, making videos was when I was doing health coaching. And I've just always been into fitness and wellness and just like teaching people how to have a healthier life. So I was like, of course, then I should just, that's my passion and that's my whatever, I should do health coaching. And so I started making these videos. And I remember I had recorded like 3 videos. And those 3 videos took me like hours because I would like record it and then re-record it and then edit it and then like change the lighting and re-edit it and was like crazy. And I put them on YouTube like unlisted and I had sent like my mom and my mother-in-law the links. Well, they didn't realize that I was just sending it to them to be like, hey, what do you think of this? And they started sharing it out everywhere. And so now you can't hide because it's my face. And I just remember like the anxiety and like just like shaking and sweating because I was like, oh my God, people are going to see that I was vulnerable and like I put myself out on video. And like if I never had all that experience, because at that point I was okay with talking about health coaching, there's no way that I would be able to 3 times a week do a personal growth class online now, or have the be able to like go on live even with you and not be so self-conscious about what I might say or how I might sound and want to edit it later. And so it's all like growing and learning who you are. I know for me,
Sometimes, go
when I
ahead.
was a kid, I always wanted to be a teacher. And so now I do think it's interesting. Like, I think I am a teacher in some sense. It's just I had to be a little bit flexible about what it looked like.
You're a teacher by actions, which is a good thing. But one of the pictures that came in my mind that, again, I told you different things trigger my interest. So Crystal is a daughter, and now you have 2 daughters, and you question everything. Oh, what are you going to get out of your two? Huh?
My daughter, and sometimes I have to think too, because like we're homeschooling for a reason, and part of that reason is just so that they can like sort of explore their own interests and question things and all of that. But sometimes I'm just like, she's so much like me that I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like she questions everything. It should be like a negotiator. I'll be like, you can have this. And she's like, well, how about if I have this and then I have that? Isn't that a great idea? Like sometimes I'm just like, okay, sure.
That will be the struggles, but what it'll be cool for your daughters growing up is to watch. Yeah, my mom's kick ass. She runs a business. She homeschools us. She sees that. So at the end of the day, I think they're going to see a pretty cool role model, although they may give it gray hair along the way.
At least my hair's a little light, so maybe you won't tell.
Does your oldest daughter have Andrew just wrapped around her finger right now?
Yeah, pretty
Mm.
much. And
He's of no help, is he?
actually he is. He's pretty tough sometimes. But yeah, she pretty much sometimes we have to think about it like cuz I personally didn't have a lot growing up. So sometimes I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, like I would have had to wait for Christmas to get that thing." And my daughter's just like she'll say something like, "Oh, I want this." She's on a tractor. She wants a tractor. And now she goes to the door like every couple of days to look for her tractor because she just assumes that like it was ordered for her. And sometimes I'm like, oh my God, we have to slow down a little bit because she like really apparently has us wrapped around her finger.
Years ago, our youngest son, we back in the day when we would stop at an ATM, and one day we're talking about something. He goes, "Well, why don't you just go to the wall and get money?" That's what he knew. You just walk up the wall and get money.
Yeah.
But it will be those stories, though, how we grew up versus our kids grow up is going to be funny. It still is. You try not to play the old guy card too often, but has your oldest daughter learned to divide and conquer mommy and daddy yet?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Her line is mommy said it was okay. Or daddy said it was okay.
Yeah.
Like she'll like ask me something or not ask me at all. And then she'll go to my husband and be like, mommy said yes. I'm like, I didn't say anything. You didn't even ask me.
Or they could give the non-denial denial of, well, she didn't say no.
Right, right. Yeah, thankfully she's not at that point yet. But apparently I must say things that I don't realize that I say because she'll be like, "Are you kidding me?" I'm like, I mean, you should have been quarantined with me for like 8 weeks, so obviously I must be the one saying it. But it's just so funny what they pick up on.
And then the time, sometimes they're good when their timing on it is just, and inflections are just as good as yours.
Well, one time I had something, I think I was like working out, and my daughter kept, she likes to like crawl underneath me. And I was like, you have to like go over there, I'm gonna like push you. And I must have like yelled at her, which I don't usually. This child called my mother and told my mother, mommy yelled at me. And so I'm just like, how did she know that? How did she know to call grandma? It's just interesting how smart they are.
That's funny. And grandma did not come to your defense, did she?
Well, she was just like, well, what did what happened? Like, what did you do or whatever? And I'm like, oh my gosh, now I have to explain to my mom why I yelled at my daughter. Like, can I just get a workout?
My whole intent. So yeah.
Oh my God.
You'll have to start those at 5:30 before she gets up for breakfast, right?
Yeah, that's what I need to do.
All right. So, Crystal, the best thing people can do is follow you on Facebook if they're not on LinkedIn, but also on Facebook to talk more about your Reach for More club.
Yeah, Reach for More Club they can find on Facebook, and Right Hand Admin they can find on Facebook also.
Excellent. I think it's a great thing for people to learn because you should always be learning. You should always be looking at things different. I don't know if you need to question everything every day, but you should question a lot of things, right?
Right.
So we've enjoyed having you on today. A wonderful story. Glad we've met and we get to connect through BNI. I picked your brain a couple times and I'm going to keep doing that again. I love the fact that you're just putting stuff out there and just moving forward. And I think a lot of people will connect with that. And I think you'll see some good results on that.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
So we will thank you, Crystal. We appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.